Hello everybody, James here, and it's Ask Dutch Anything episode 92. Here's the quick version of the introduction. Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com is the email that you write to inquire about signed merchandise from the Dirty Dutchman himself. That includes books, that includes WCW trading cards, and most importantly, it means signed diplomas from the University of Dutch as well. There you go, Jeffrey Beattie. Yours has been recently, freshly created and signed by the Dirty Dutchman himself. And the other email, the most relevant email,
Dirty Dutch and Zeb Colter.
And Zeb Colter.
You get 2 autographs.
And for this show, the most relevant email is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. That's the email you use to write into the show. Submit your questions for future iterations of Ask Dutch Anything. And everybody on this list has done just that. And here's the first one from, what's your book upside down? Oh, there you go. Yes.
That's a great book.
I've got it.
I still read, go back and read my own stuff sometimes.
I did that the other day with my own book that I wrote on the rock, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
See?
So I wrote it, and I forgot about it.
But you don't remember writing it.
No, I don't remember. Oh, many long nights they were. Anyway, let's get to the questions. Richard from Ocala, Florida. Dutch and James, great show. Always enjoy listening. Dutch, I know you were there in Florida in 1985. What are your thoughts on the Freebirds versus Mike Graham angle, where Buddy Roberts and Michael Hayes mention Eddie Graham's death and bust Mike open to fuel Mike's quest to go after Ric Flair and the world title? Buddy calls Mike a loser and says you're a loser just like your dad, among other things. This happened a few months after Eddie's suicide. Mike was intense, and Buddy did subsequent interviews calling Mike a loser like his dad. Prior to that, I recall the Freebirds as babyfaces facing the Assassin and the Saint, among others. So, do you remember this, or were you pretty much gone by this time, the sort of the rise of Mike Graham?
I was still there, and I remember that that was brought up, but I don't think it was. I think it was fairly soon after Eddie's death, because I was still there. I think he died in like February, I think.
It was Super Bowl Sunday, you always remind me.
It was Super Bowl Sunday that he did it. And I don't even, it was 85. I know that. But I didn't much like it, because I think that's in bad taste to try to do an angle of someone's death. And I really, really liked Eddie. He was if I ever had a question about doing something, well, I had the right guy I could ring up right away and ask him. And Eddie, when it came to wrestling, he knew if they had a college course on booking, Eddie Graham would have been the dean of the college, because he knew everything there was to know, and he had reasons to do things certain ways. And actually, a part of my booking always reflected, traces of Eddie Graham. Yeah, I didn't really like it, but again, it's wrestling. And I had to think back. I said, well, what would Eddie think about this? And I would think Eddie would say, hey, if you need it, do it. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. And I think I could almost hear Eddie telling me that, he had no problem with it. Whether he would feel that way or not, I don't know. But I knew his desire to book and how much he loved wrestling. So I would say, hey, don't hold back. Get what you can out of it. I'm not there, but if I can help, go ahead and do it. And they did it, and I think they did okay with it. But still, I think even some of the people says, I don't know. I think they, if something is done and you don't really agree with it, even as a fan, you may hesitate to even support it. And I think they did okay with it. They didn't do it extraordinarily well, and I think Eddie was well respected in the state of Florida, because he helped the sheriff's organization, and that helped young kids, and they had a camp for them to go every year. So in the state of Florida, Eddie Graham's name was well respected. He could go and call the governor, and the governor would talk to him. So at any time. But yeah, I do remember that angle.
Yeah, you left mid-March, so less than 2 months afterwards. So if it's not your idea, then you went along with it. Was it Michael Hayes' idea then, because he was your booking understudy at the time? Or was it Mike Graham's idea, because that's really near the knuckle for his own son to come up with that?
I don't think they had to clear it with Mike, of course. But I don't think it would have been Mike's. I think it was Michael Hayes whose idea that it finally boiled down to Michael. I think Michael came up with it. But the problem then is how do you even discuss an angle with Mike after his father had just passed away? So, and I wasn't there. So when he talked to him about it, but I guess Mike agreed to it, and they did it.
There's a follow-up question here. It says, also any info on an alleged fight between Hercules and Wahoo McDaniel that is listed in several books like the Mark James results book, that Hercules was fired from the company for the fight in the locker room. I believe Hercules was Southern champion at the time. I want to say it happened in June or July, possibly in Ocala, at the, is it J or Jai Alcy Fronton?
Highlight.
Is that how you spell highlight? I've never seen it written down. The Highlight Fronton. Have a great day.
So, you learned something.
I learned something. I did. I know the sport. I've never seen it written down.
Yeah, highlight. That's how they say it.
I was looking at Michael Jai White or something like that, thinking that's how it's spelled. So yeah, do you know anything about that backstage fight or what it was about?
Well, I heard that he's kind of a pushy drunk. I heard.
Who?
And
Wahoo.
Who was the guy he got in the
Hercules?
Wahoo and
Ray Fernandez, Hercules.
Yeah, Hercules. Yeah, I always heard he was like a mean drunk, and Wahoo didn't take no crap from anybody. Nice guy, would laugh, kid around, but don't ever challenge him for anything physical because he'll get with you in a second. And he ends up beating the crap out of damn Hercules. Then I heard Hercules got up after he realized what he'd done because he was drunk. And he apologized this is later, this is a couple of days later, I guess. But how do you apologize to your boss? And he had stomped the hell out of me. I don't know. But he went up and he did say he apologized to Wahoo, and Wahoo blew it off. And let's continue and let's do business. Yeah. I heard about that, but I'm sure that it was because of Hernandez, being a mean drunk. That's what I've always heard about him.
Next question from Carrie. Hello, Dutch and James. As a former homeschooling mother in the boonies of central Pennsylvania, I was curious as to whether your family ever travelled with you or have other families ever travelled with their wrestling spouses and homeschooled their children because of that. Thank you so much. I enjoy your show immensely.
Never really heard of that. I've heard of families going with the dad to shows or to certain places. But as far as living on the road and schooling your children on the road, I never really heard of that.
Do you know who did? And I think you'll know who I'm talking about, Rocky Johnson, because you remember Dwayne as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think he took his family around.
Well, no, I'm not saying he took his family on the road with him.
Yeah.
But that means that might be, say, you were working in Florida and you go to Tennessee. Well, yeah, you take your family with you because you hope to be there for a year or 2 years. So you will take them with you. But on the road means like almost not every night, but a couple of times a week. Didn't know anybody who did that. But yeah, my family went with me, and a lot of guys would take the wives and the kids, and they would move down if they're going to be there for a while. But what happens a lot of times, if you didn't have trust in the booker, you could go in there and not be there maybe 2 months, and it'd be time to go because you're not making any money. I've done that several times. Go in a place and all of a sudden you get your check and you say, "What the hell?" It's not good anyway. But sometimes if that check is a little light, well, it's time to look for somewhere else. So, yeah, I could include mine in that bunch because my family went with me, and Otherwise, I'd never seen my daughter.
Was there any time you quit a territory and your wife was like, "Oh my God, not again. We've only just settled here." Do you remember there being any time where you quit or left a territory and that caused issues?
Well, one year I hit 4 territories. But after a while, you go in there and you just try to find you just like a family inn or something that you could rent by the week or the month, where you didn't sign a bunch of stuff that, well, if you move out early, you got to pay them this and pay them that. No, you would look for that and just see how it was going to work out. Yeah, I've done that several times. And wrestlers, you live by your suitcase anyway. Back in those days, not anymore, but that's how that was back in the Carney days of wrestling.
Derek says, were you either surprised to hear Michael Cole name drop Chris Jericho's name and his move during the broadcast at Crown Jewel? It's extremely rare to hear someone else's name associated from another company. Do you think Michael Cole would have needed permission from Triple H to say Chris Jericho's name, or is this a prelude to Chris Jericho's return and possibly seen as final opponent, or possibly an in-ring segment send-off? So, do you think...
let's look at this logically.
Yeah.
What benefit would WWE have by bringing up Chris Jericho's name if he's not coming in? There's no logical explanation for that. So I would think just by him saying the name at Chris Jericho, he's not long off from coming back into the company. Now, if Vince would still hold a grudge against him for leaving, which that has been known to happen, I don't think Michael Cole would have said his name. And I don't think Michael Cole would have said his name unless he was given free access to say his name, or he may have even been told to mention his name doing that, because it's a prelude to him coming in, which starts talk like we're talking right now. And now the people, since his name comes up, now they say, well, Chris Jericho. And that gets the people interested again.
Chris Jericho's always been really good at generating interest for himself and switching companies or retiring for a while when he feels like he needs a refresh or a character update or something like that. So I think we've talked about this before, but I think realistically his AEW run is long since done. Really, where he can draw money. Yeah,
it's been done. I mean, and he's been around the business long enough to know that when they're not having ideas for you, and you can have them for yourself, and if they don't act on that, then you're done. You might just wait till your contract's up, and when his contract's up, he will probably jump back with WWE. Now, with that said, what do you think WWE would do with Jericho?
Maybe just like a 1-year run. I can't remember. Maybe I said this, or maybe someone else said this, and I like the idea. LA Knight, that'd be a good feud. Have LA Knight go over in the end, because I mean he's still getting decent wins here and there, but once again I think he lost to Jey Uso. I can't remember who it was he lost to. No, Bron Breakker on Raw. Like, you can beat him, he can win the occasional one, but I think fans want to see him ascend the ladder a bit more. I think Chris Jericho would be somebody who could get him there.
I would put him with Jericho to start and tell Jericho, talk to him, said, hey, I think me and you got the talent and I got the knowledge, and let's see where we take it. And they get together for 3-4 months, and all of a sudden they do the turn, and Jericho wraps it up by putting him over, and you got a nice little story that runs a year.
I think so as well. Let's go.
I like it. Do you like it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just to clarify then, you are of the opinion that Chris Jericho will migrate back over to WWE because, once again, Tony Khan, he did his... I'm just throwing this one in as well. You know how Tony Khan, if he gets wind that if a wrestler he thinks is going to WWE, he will just take them off television, and you'll never hear from them again. From Mariah May to Rusev to whoever else it might be. Well, Chris Jericho did a Fozzy tour after April. I think the last time he was seen on television was around April time. Did a Fozzy tour, and he's never been brought back to TV. So that's kind of telling me that Tony Khan's wrapping him up.
Yep. Well, but see, Tony he loses interest in Tony, this is not a shot at you. I'm just saying it's a booking style. These guys spend way too much time off TV. So whatever you're paying them, you're just giving them free money to do nothing. Let me ask you this. Is talent obligated by the company to attend TV tapings, even if they're not on?
I think some are, and I think a lot of them aren't as well. Because I know Jack Swagger said that, didn't he? He said some guys have to turn up every week, whether they're booked or not, and just hope that they get on the show. So, yeah. I mean, I think there'll always be some surplus wrestlers or performers. But there's 160-odd people on the roster. I doubt that 160-odd people are flying in every week.
No. I don't think the dressing rooms could hold 160 people.
No.
I don't think. But anyway, that was what I would think, because you have to have some kind of a blueprint when you bring somebody in, and then you just take the blueprint and, flesh it out and see where it takes you. I think Jericho and what's the guy's name again?
Who? Oh, LA Knight.
LA Knight. I think they'd be a good team together. And then, they're both like smart asses with each other, especially Knight. And I think they could really build something out of that. Yeah. I'd be interested in both those guys are good. So when you have an idea, give it to those guys and let them. And I think they would have great chemistry together. And I think they could have a good little run out of that. I'd be interested in it.
Hey, just because we're mentioning it as well, I think he worked with LA Knight when he was Eli Drake in Impact. That year you were there and hid in catering the entire time. But have you worked with Eli Drake, LA Knight much in the past over the years?
Yeah, in TNA.
Yeah.
And when I went to TNA, though, it was a whole different story. It was a whole different vibe and everything else. So I don't think there's no way to compare my TNA experience with the one in WWE. It's different chemistry.
I need to ask you more about that at some point soon, but I'll move on for now. CG asks, who's a wrestler you can't stand in real life and will not do a podcast with anytime soon?
Just name somebody. I'll tell you about
Vince Russo.
I do a podcast with him.
Konnan.
Well, while personally I don't much like him, I mean, he's okay. I mean, he's fine. He's always, till he sued me that time. And I don't even know why he sued me. And I've never heard of a guy suing another guy and then calling him up and apologizing to him for suing him. And he called me up and said, hey, I always liked Konnan anyway. He said, hey, man, that suit, I didn't really want to do it, but I had to. I was forced into it. I said, okay, I understand. But, yeah, I do a podcast with him. Okay.
Who else does podcast? I mean, there's like a million wrestlers who do podcasts, but The Undertaker.
Oh, yeah.
Thing is, you'd have to travel for The Undertaker one.
I'd have to travel?
Yeah, well, I mean, you would have done it under the old guys, because I don't know if people know this, is that Dutch was meant to be, or he was invited to be on the old 6 Feet Under, but I think at that time you were having the health issues the second time. And obviously you weren't flying anyway.
Who's his producer?
Oh, I don't know now.
Okay.
But it's a WWE production now, so.
Okay. Yeah, I was invited to go on there because I would have some really, really good stuff to say about Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So because a lot of things that he may not even want to talk about, but I'd make him talk about it. So it'd probably be a well-watched episode. So if anybody knows Mark, tell him that, he's still got my number so he can call me.
Next question. Kendon, after the first WWE brand split and after the new generation era where Vince McMahon did play-by-play, what was your favourite lineup of either Raw or SmackDown commentary, in your opinion?
Well, I always liked Lawler because he's such a smart ass, but I never liked his laugh. That laugh he would always do, seemed like a dirty old man to me.
Are you saying that Jerry
But
Lawler's a dirty old man?
say what now?
Are you saying that Jerry Lawler's a dirty old man?
No, I'm not saying that. That is what it reminded me of,
Oh,
though.
okay.
But and some of his jokes were so lame, but at the same time they were funny. So, but always I like Jesse Ventura, but my number two commentary guys, if they're heels, is Bobby Heenan, which was I still don't think they've come up with anybody that was equal to him, and Cornette. Cornette on commentary, left alone, motivated, is a great side companion. And then, of course, then comes Ventura and then Lawler. They were good.
Remind me, because you did commentary for Worldwide in WCW for 6 months or a year or something like that. Who were the guys you did commentary with, and who did you like? Because Tony Schiavone was one.
Yeah, Tony Schiavone. He's about the only one I did it with in WCW.
Oh, so you didn't work with like Heyman or Cornette or even Terry Funk on commentary then?
No, not at all. Why do you ask?
I don't know. For some reason, I just thought two colour commentators would be together, and I know for a fact that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, but two color commentators. I mean, one of them is not really versed in the TV. They got to be said, oh, we're going to go live in 10 or whatever. But they were both good. All of them were good. So, but the two color commentators together, I don't know how that would work out, because you need one guy there for just the lightness of it. Anyway,
are there any of the modern commentators that you're a fan of? Michael Cole or Corey Graves or Joe Tessitore?
To me, I would rather eat sandpaper. I know him, a good guy, but to me he's not interesting. Maybe if they let him be interesting, but a lot of times when I listen to WWE, it's almost two straight guys. Like listen to baseball commentators. If one's just agreeing with the other, what's the purpose of it? I think they need they call them color guys for a reason, because they got to say, well, I was in the dressing room with this and I asked him this and blah, 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 blah. Well, he's telling a little bit of a story. People like to hear that. But if he's saying, well, he's averaging 11 yards per pass, and this guy here is averaging 5.6 yards per carry, and who gives a crap? Tell me a story. Something happened in the dressing room. Did the guy slip and bust his butt and taking a shower, or what?
With colour commentators...
Hang on one second.
I will hang on 1 second. So a quick break there. I want to ask you this, Dutch, or posit something to you. It always seems that, we're always talking about the greatest ones. Like, I mean, everyone from Terry Funk to Paul Heyman to Bobby Heenan to Jesse Ventura to Jerry Lawler. If I didn't say Jerry Lawler twice. They always felt genuine to their personas. You know what I mean? It felt like they were them. I always feel with Wade Barrett or Corey Graves or other wrestlers being colour commentators that they're playing the part of a heel. Well, like you can almost like hear the directive. You're a heel today. Say these things. Be really objectionable, kind of thing. Whereas it always seemed to be far more organic in the old days. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, it was. You had to be your character. See, when I what's the guy's name with Cole, Stu Bennett?
Yep. Wade. Yep.
But I think he's almost too straight. Tell me a story. Tell me something else. Tell me you saw a guy on the way here and you threw a bottle at him or something. But just say something that's out of the normal. And they say, wait a minute, what did he say? But give them a reason to listen to. I hate to hear some of these commentators almost say the exact same thing as the straight guy did. Because where's your contrast? And they both blend in together, and pretty soon, I mean, they can say a guy's in great shape and he's a great technician and he's this and that. But after you say that, okay, we've heard that. We're watching him now. Now tell me something that makes me tune in more. And they never really do it. Sometimes they might do it. And when somebody tunes in something that's out of the ordinary, you pay attention to it, or I do.
Next question. GZ Carr says, did you ever work with Jack
Who?
Victory? I don't know.
What's the guy's name?
GZ Carr.
GZ.
Yeah. Did you ever work with Jack Victory? He always to me seems to me, I read him how they're written anyway, to be a utility player when wrestlers became unavailable for whatever reason. He subbed in as a third member of the Sheepherders, as a flag carrier. He worked angles with Jack Tatum and Missy Hyatt. I saw him in Joe Blanchard's San Antonio area, WCCW, and Mid-South. Do you have any stories, since he seems to have stayed off the radar on the commentaries channels? So, Jack Victory, any thoughts?
I know him, don't know him well. And he was a utility player. He was the corner man for the Bushwhackers, or the New Zealanders, or weren't they called the Bushwhackers when they first came here?
WWF. They were the Sheepherders before.
Sheepherders, okay. And he's the type of guy you really need in a territory, because he can almost fill in anything. Because he was a pretty good sized guy, pretty good in the ring. And I don't know how he was on interviews. I never heard him do an interview. Did you ever hear him do an interview?
Not one off the top of my head. I mean, when I heard of Jack Victory, he was in the dying days of ECW. Because I think Paul Heyman used to manage him at one point. I think Jack Victory was like part of that Midnight Express versus Midnight Express thing in like 1990. But yeah, he just pops up occasionally, then disappears. But he had been around for a long time.
How long was his career? It wasn't that long.
Decades, I think.
I don't think so.
I'm Googling it as we speak. One sec.
You're going to have to quit Googling. Googling.
Or I'll go blind.
You have to do Grok.
Oh, God, Grok's terrible for stuff. Anyway. Universal Wrestling Federation. He was in there 84 to 85, so I figure... Yeah, that's UWF, so that's Mid-South. It wasn't UWF in 84, but anyway. And I'm trying to have a look when he stopped wrestling. Bear with me. New Zealand Militia. He was very briefly in the WWF. He wrestled a dark match. I always like it, finding random people, random names who do like one dark match. ECW, he was there for 3 years, in fact. And he continued on the independent circuit until 2021.
So what, 15 years?
No, nearly 40.
Okay.
So there you go. Right, we'll move on. Jason says, hello, Dutch and James. I hope all is well. My question is, I know Don Bass and Roger Smith were the Assassins and later formed Fire and Flame. Fire and Flame became a successful tag team. Then they added a third member, Torch. Does Dutch know who Torch was? Thank you. Keep up the good work, guys. Jason from Mount Washington, Kentucky.
Oh, Torch? No, I don't know.
Just the way you said it, I knew you didn't have an idea.
No, I don't know him. I know those guys in there, but I think when they hit their Mid-South run, I think that's where they kind of, the team broke, and I think Roger Smith now, I think, is in West Virginia, last I heard, and he's, what do you think he's doing now?
Tell me. I don't know.
Evangelist.
Uh-huh.
That's what I heard. And Don Bass, I think he's still in Arkansas. I don't know what he's doing. And the other guy who we never really put a name on him, I don't know where he is. But I think all of them are out of the profession, don't have anything to do with it.
I'm sorry to say, Don Bass passed away 2016 in Memphis, Tennessee.
Probably why we don't know where he is.
Yeah. Well, we could find him, I guess, but no, that'll be why. Right, a few more questions. Samantha says, I'm curious what Dutch thinks about Jerry Jarrett almost buying the fading AWA. Could he have possibly saved the company and kept it going, or was it already past saving? Thank you both.
Well, it's according to how much money he wanted to put in it. I don't think he had that much money to put in it.
Have you seen the dying days of the AWA? It's pitiful.
Well, yes, because they ran big buildings. And the AWA never had guys lined up that really were dying to go. to the AWA. It was the most boringest wrestling you've ever seen. See, when they had Bobby Heenan there, he added some life to it. And even though they had some great technicians there, Nick Bockwinkel, who never left, he would make shots out, but they weren't the type, it wasn't a wide open territory like, say, Memphis was, or even Mid-South, or Florida, or the Carolinas. Or Memphis. No, it wasn't wide open. It was just almost straight up wrestling, straight up commentary. And Vern used a lot of older guys that had slowed down and they were just friends of his. But, the dying days of AWA, I was in Kansas City, and Kansas City was a Minneapolis, a cheap Minneapolis. And they would run pretty good sized buildings, and nobody be in there. And I used to think, I need to book this thing. But even before I was trying to book, I said, I could do better than these guys, because they would do one angle, and that was expected to carry the company for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And it never really worked. So I went in there with Ron Bass, and I was there maybe 8 months. And the Oates brothers were there, Jerry and Ted. And we drew at the end when Jerry and Ted were leaving. We did some lose or leave towns. That did good, but you can't do lose or leave towns every week. And that was it. So right after that, when they finished, I thought the houses were bad before, till after Jerry and Ted left, they really went to nothing. Mm. So you can imagine, if I was making not that much before, I was making less than that after, and I said, "Oh, I can't do this." I took off.
Just for people who don't know, the AWA in the last year, just to answer, Nick Bockwinkel, he did stay until his retirement. Then he went to the WWF as an agent for a couple of years, actually. Mm-hmm. He retired in 1987. With the AWA the last year, like they couldn't pay fans to turn up. So they ended up just wrestling in what was called the Team Tag Challenge Series, or whatever it was. They used to record these wrestling shows in a big pink room with no fans. And like the aisleway wasn't an aisleway. It would have green screen either side with like fans on it, and like there'd be warped video of like these. It was pathetic. Like it was laughable. And like I've seen the video of Greg Garnier, like in 1990 or whatever, in the editing suite at the time, say, we've got these great new innovations. It includes having no fans and Sergeant Slaughter walking down a green screen room, saluting nothing. I think it's with the AWA as well. With the Tag Challenge Series, wrestlers just kept disappearing. So, you had Sergeant Slaughter, you had Larry Zbyszko, and I can't remember the third one. It doesn't matter. Basically, everyone in this Tag Challenge Series all left the company pretty much before its conclusion. So all you had left was Jake Milliman, like left, like career jobbers. That was all that was left in the last year, or in the last couple of months.
And Vern was still in charge of it.
Vern was still in charge of it. Here's the other thing with the AWA: it's like it's just full of old people.
That's what I think. I remember it is wrestlers would go there and stay for years and years and years, which is one problem I think WWE has now. I think some people have outlived their welcome, and it's time to go home for a while and then come back later. How long is who's the guy that was with Heyman, or was with Heyman, and did they split?
Seth Rollins.
How long has he been there? He's been there at least 15 years.
Nearly, yeah. I think he made the main roster debut 2012, 2013 with the Shield. So he's been there at least a dozen years. But there's more people like Randy Orton and whatnot as well. Let me tell you this about the AWA. I believe I'm right in saying this, that the AWA was one of the only territories with an off-season. And I think they take like a month or two off in the summer, which is probably why a load of guys love being there. And I don't think they did 7 days a week. They might have done like 5 days a week. So, it was a luxury compared to a lot of the territories back in the day. But they, would also have to fly a lot of places because, at times it had Western Canada and a bunch of other states.
Well, I can see why they would take off summer, because summer there, they did no business. because the people were out on the lakes.
Yeah, same with Calgary, I believe. I think they shut down for a little bit. I think at times might be wrong there, but yeah.
Well, I knew that some places were just New Brunswick. They just ran there. When did they run in New Brunswick? That was a regional territory. The Papos had it one time.
New Brunswick, really?
Somewhere up there in northeastern Canada. Oh. New Brunswick?
Nova Scotia, that kind of thing?
Well, maybe up in maybe it was Nova Scotia. They wanted me to go up there one time. I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, I am not going up there when it gets like 20 below zero. Hell no. I said, I can't do that. They said, no, you can, it's not bad. And I said, no, we're not, maybe not bad for you, but it'd be bad for me because I can't take the cold weather. I can take the heat a lot better than I can take the cold. But the Papos went up there, and I think they brought it back for a year or so.
Just going back to this lady's question, Samantha, and she said Jerry Jarrett actually buying AWA. Do you remember that happening? Because
I remember. Excuse me. I remember some talk about it, but it never amounted to anything.
It's like the whole Dallas thing.
What are they selling? Just the rights to run some towns?
I guess so, but I mean, Vince McMahon at that point had proved that you could just go in and do it.
Yeah,
I mean, the NWA was dead. AWA wasn't even an NWA member. So
I remember when they used to bring. I don't know what happened to my voice. It's gone. They would bring those guys into Memphis. They would do nothing. There was no really jump in the houses or anything. Just some other name they brought in. People didn't know who in the hell they were.
Let's move on. John says, hello, Dutch and James. Hope all is well. I remember watching a preacher, and I think his name was Brother Ernest Angel around 1988, I think. Anyway, to my question, do you think this is where Bruce Pritchard got Brother Love character from? And any stories about Ernest Angel? Thanks for taking my question. Before we get to that, why don't we watch his debut together? And I actually watched it beforehand, and I've heard of Ernest Angel before, as like the proto Brother Love.
Ernest Angley. Not Ernest Angel.
I thought it was Ernest Angel. I googled it.
That's a good name for him. But his last name was Angley, Ainglsley. I think Angley.
Let's bring up the video. Watch his debut. Right. So here we go. Here's the debut. I'm going to actually tell you this now. One, the video quality is terrible, and two, for an evangelistic character, I didn't think he was a very good talker because Lance Storm's basically holding together the entire promo. So here we go.
Heavyweight Championship. Right now, we're going to bring out a brand new face in the area. We have not had him here before. I don't really know anything about him. And are we here for the wrong day? Is this the right program? We're looking for Ernest Angel, and here he comes right now, I assume. How are you? Well, Ernest, we're, I think, delighted to have you here. We always give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and you're here with a brand new tune. I don't exactly understand what all of the trappings is.
Well, Brother Russell, we've received a calling to come here into the Mid-South area to clean up wrestling. There's a great problem.
I wouldn't disagree with that at times.
We're here for the fans. We're here for all the fans. We're here for the fans. We're going to clean up professional wrestling in the Mid-South area. We think there's a lot of backsliders in wrestling. And so we think there's no place in this fine sport for these backsliders.
You're saying the kind of thing.
What's a backslider?
Oh, do I have to educate you on everything?
Oh, I'm basically saying cheater.
A backslider is a person who's accepted Christ as his personal savior, but even after doing that, he has gone back to his evil, sinful ways.
I see.
And has backslid and back to his former lifestyle. Understand that?
Yeah, I've never heard that term before.
Now, wait a minute. This is a guy, what they call him, Ernest Angel.
Yep.
This is a knockoff of a real evangelist, Ernest Angley.
Mm-hmm.
There was a real preacher by the name of Ernest Angley. And in the States, especially down south, this is how I found them as a kid. They were on like the last hour of TV during the day before cable. This was before cable. And say the TV station would sign off at 1 o'clock in the morning, but instead of losing that hour, they would sell that last hour to a ministry. They would sell it to, I can't think of any of their names now, but there was a bunch of them. And they would probably get maybe $100 for the hour or $200 for the hour. But they were getting nothing for it. So they were getting an extra $1,500 a week. They show it every night at 1 o'clock. And that's what they would do. And these were TV evangelists. And they were pretty interesting. If you just hear them preach, you know, they would suck you into that story. So, but this is another guy who's a knockoff of the real guy, Ernest Angley, the Reverend Ernest Angley, by the way.
Things that we want to hear, because as a matter of fact,
I just keep thinking that Lance has totally taken over the promo, because you can sort of see that Brother Ernest Angel's already stumbling.
I don't know who this guy is.
Well, all I can say, once we unleash Jim and Tommy on them, they'll come our way.
Oh, Jim and Tommy.
Jim and Tommy,
yes,
these are the choir boys.
Yes, sir.
And you plan to use them as an instrument in order to clean up the action that's going on. Win it at any cost. Well, now I'm not so sure we're both talking about the same thing. I appreciated your attitude of saying you have a cause and you want to clean some things up, but this win at any cost, I've heard other people say that, and I'm not so certain that the means justify.
Numero uno.
Well, okay, this is Ernest Angel, and we've got your choir boys out here. We've got a match scheduled in for you.
That's like one of the worst debuts I've ever seen.
That was
it's terrible.
Terrible. It wasn't that good.
No, and then they go into the ring. I can't watch any more of that. I'm getting epilepsy, which is all you know. VHS.
See, I don't even know who that guy is. I've never heard of him. He just did, and that's not a bad gimmick. Tell you the truth.
Hey, Bruce Pritchard did an amazing job.
He took it, and he was a Southern evangelist. Now, you've never seen these shows?
Oh, very occasionally when like certain cable or satellite companies here will have more channels than others, and very occasionally I've seen a couple, or I've seen some clips as well. Terrifying.
So you don't remember the PTL club?
No, no one over here. It's not a thing over here. You know, the evangelists and whatnot, pretty much.
Oh, huge here. And when they would come through, they would feel. I remember when they used to have an evangelist show that would come around, be different ones. They're like independent wrestling shows, and they wouldn't rent a church or a gym, or they just put up tents. And they would go in there and they'd have a revival starting on Thursday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, wrap it up Sunday. They're on the way to the next place to restart the next Thursday somewhere else. But so if you saw a tent going up into town, well, you know, they would have pretty good attendance, and they would take donations every night, and they would sing, and some of the church people, all the church people would be there, and because they would go and have a revival and rededicate their lives, I guess, to God and Jesus. So big deal down south. And it'd have to be like back in the 60s and 70s and part of the 80s, and then it died out.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of names like, you know, like Billy Graham and Jimmy Swaggart. Or have I got the names right?
Jimmy Swaggart was huge. He had a TV network. Billy Graham had a TV network. The PTL club, I can't remember, Jim and Tammy Baker.
Yeah.
You remember them?
I've heard of them, yeah.
Huge network, and they got more. Now, when I was on the road, I'd go to the room, and at 1 o'clock, TV would go off. The only thing on would be the evangelist. So I'd sit there in a room, couldn't go to sleep, and I watched the evangelist sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. And I think Jim and Tammy Baker spent more time in the studio than they did actually in the church, because they were too busy doing TV content than they were doing church content. Mm-hmm. And Tammy was a major, major part of that show, because here she'd go out there, supposed to be a Christian woman. She was made up, blonde hair all the way up to here, all the makeup, all the diamonds on her fingers, and she was actually very funny. She'd make you laugh. But they had a good show, and they probably had, I don't know how many listeners I would think they would have, but I think they well over. If you had 1 million listeners back in those days, that was a lot of people, and they would have that. Of course, every show had a way for you to send them money for the glory of God. Send their money, and you could be welcomed into heaven when they pass, and they had a lot of people listen to them.
Just because you mentioned motels before, I've got to ask you this: did any motels you stay at have a coin-operated TV?
Maybe one, I think. That wasn't a big deal in the States.
No, I just had to ask. I wanted to know. Right? Okay.
Now, and I have gone into some of them. The TV didn't work. TV was black and white. TV was older than the motel. See, we didn't used to have motels. I mean, hotels. We had all motels, but now motels are kind of out of fashion. Now it's all hotels again. Okay, wait a minute. What was the question the last person asked? Was that based on that guy?
Yeah, Brother Ernest Angel. Just wanted to know your thoughts if you knew anything about him. But he was there in '88, I guess, and I think you with the Fullers or something like that around that time, or maybe even Puerto Rico again.
What was his name?
The person who wrote, Brother Ernest Angel.
He was with the Fullers, you said?
No, I'm saying you with the Fullers, so you wouldn't have seen Ernest Angel when he debuted in Memphis.
Well, I didn't know who he was, but I heard what they tried. He was interesting then. If you'd have had a good talker, that would have gotten over. Yeah,
I think so too. Jace, in fact, just to mention this, you could hear the crowd, or the little studio audience, like some of them were gasping. Some of them, like, their heckles were up immediately over that one.
Well, that was so you were touching home with that gimmick, because you're touching religion, and you can do it that way. If it's like tongue in cheek a little bit, you can do that. A guy who claims to be good, and with goodness all over him, but he's just a cheating, no good, lying bastard. So I can see where that would get a heat, and he was, God bless everybody and all this, but he's just a no good crook, and he'd just take your money and everything. They could have done a lot with that, but the guy couldn't talk.
All right, then, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again on Wednesday for Storytime with Dutch Mantell, as we nearly always are every single Wednesday. Until then, everybody at home, and Dutch as well, put your hand over your heart, say in a loud, clear voice, we the people.